Hi guys, it's Sam for Digital Meat, and in this tutorial we're going to be looking at getting geometry from Cinema 4D into the Unity3D engine. If you're not familiar with Unity3D, you can get it from this website here, Unity3D.com. Just click on Get Unity 5, and then there's a Professional Edition and Personal Edition. The Personal Edition has it's fully featured. It's exactly the same as Professional Edition, apart from you can't have a customizable splash screen. You don't get the cloud building functions, but in terms of the engine, it's exactly the same. So you click on the free download, and then you got the download installer. It's currently on version 5.2.2. So that's what I've got installed at the moment. So I suppose first things first, let's fire up Unity. Now let's open this dialog window, and this is the projects tab. As you can see, I've already got a project in there called the house, but for this I'm going to be creating a new project. So what you do is you click on new. This is where it's going to dump the project. In my case, it's users, C users, Sam Winter, documents. So I've got a folder in my documents. In fact, I can crack that open. So in my documents, I've got this Unity projects folder, and there you can see the house and all of the assets and stuff that's in there. So from this screen, I'm just going to call this C4D test. An underscore, and then create project. Let's see, asset packages, blah, blah, blah. We won't worry about any of that for the time being, because we're not going to need them. So this is called C4D test, and that'll be the name of the folder that it creates within this folder, the Unity projects folder. So let's create project, and create that project, and this will be the default layer for Unity. I don't particularly like this setup, so I forget where it is now. 2-column layout? No, just want a 1-column layout. I think it might be up here in Windows layouts. Here we go. 2x3. I think it's tool that I have. Yeah, this is the one I have. And then I have a 1-column. So that's how I usually have mine. By default, you'll get this main camera. If you want to look through, when you click on it, you get this little camera preview at the bottom. But if you want to know what your game environment is going to look at, you've got 2 tabs up here. You've got the scene tab, so this is where you can work in the editor. It works a lot like Cinema 4D, so you can Alt left click to maneuver around the scene. Anybody that's used 3D before should be familiar with how to navigate. You can also hold down the right mouse button and then use your WASD keys to, shift around the environment. But anyway, if you go to the game tab, you'll be looking for your main cameras. Looking for your main camera. I won't need that for this. The directional light, obviously that's self-explanatory. As a Cinema 4D user, you'll probably be familiar with directional lights or infinite lights. If you get rid of this, obviously it'll change the scene, so we'll just leave that in there for now. Right, so getting stuff out of Cinema 4D into Unity. How do we go about this? Right, let's go back to Cinema 4D then. And let's open up our documents folder. Go down to Unity projects, and there we go. There's our C4D test. If we open that up, you've got your assets. So this is where your assets are going to go, your library. So this is all like metadata, and at this point, stuff you don't really need to worry about. Project settings. This is basically where if you save anything within your project here, and then save it, it will update these text files and whatnot. Okay, so that's self-explanatory. In assets, this is where your models are going to go. So what I'm going to do is go into assets, create a folder in there, and I'm going to call it imports. The reason I've put that little hashtag there is so the folder will always be at the top of the stack of whatever you've got in here, so you can get to it easy. And so that's that done. We'll go back to Cinema 4D. I'm going to create a plane on the floor. Very simple. I'm also going to turn my lines on. As you can see, we've got a loaded geometry there, probably not needed. So I'm just going to drop that down to 1 and 1. There we go. And I'm going to create a box as well on top of that. Let's make it 1 meter by 1 meter, so that's 100 centimeters. And if we go into our side view, we can get it so it's sat on our floor. Because we know this is a 100 centimeters high, and it's somewhere in the middle, the floor somewhere in the middle, I can raise it up by 50 centimeters and it should be sat exactly on the floor. So there we go. So how would we go about getting this into Unity? Well, there's a couple of ways. If we go to File, and then go down to Export, and then go down to FBX, Unity accepts FBXs into it. So if I go to FBX, what I can do is, let's see, navigate to our folder. So Documents, Unity Projects, C4D Test, Assets, Imports, and then I can call this FBX anything that I like. So let's call this Test. Save it. It'll bring up this dialog here asking for whatever. So do I want to save lights, cameras, splines? Well, I've got none of those in there, so I could uncheck them, but leaving them checked is not going to hurt any. It's going to ask about animation tracks. I've got no animations here, so I can turn that off if I wanted to. But as soon as there's no keyframes, it probably won't export the animation track anyway. Geometry. So it's asking, do you want to export the normals with your geometry? I'll leave that tick for now. Vertex map to vertex colors, that doesn't apply. Triangulate geometry, so you can actually triangulate the geometry on export out of Cinema 4D, but Unity will triangulate the mesh internally. Sometimes that can cause problems. I'm not sure if they've improved that in Unity 5. I know in 4 it was a bit of an issue, and I tended to triangulate my geometry either by clicking this little button here, or actually selecting all the polys of my object and then using the menu to triangulate it internally inside Cinema 4D. So I don't know why I quit out of that window. There we go. Thankfully it saved my position. Oh, for fuck's sake. Press the wrong button. So FBX. Again, we're going to call this test. And press save. So all of this is fine as default, so I'm going to leave it like that. Hit OK. In this folder, obviously, you can see that it's made this FBX. And then when I go back into Unity, I've clicked on the Unity window there, and it doesn't seem to have done anything, but you'll notice that in this folder it's generated these materials. And it's because Unity has detected that something's changed in its assets folder, and as you can see, it's created this imports thing in the project now. And we got materials. There was no material on it, and it's created this no name material. We can ignore that for now. And this is our model. So if we drag this into our actual scene, this is our kind of like our folders where all our assets are, and this is represents where everything in our scene is. So if we drag this test into the scene, you can now see we've got a box on a plane. You'll notice that it's white because it's just its default color when you bring something into Unity. Now, that's one way of getting stuff into Unity. Let's delete this stuff here. So we'll delete that. We'll delete the FBX, and obviously it's not in our scene anymore, so we'll delete this as well. And if we go back to our folder, you'll notice that when you delete it from this file structure within Unity, it deletes it from the actual folder in our Explorer, Windows Explorer. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Now there is another way of doing it, and it's what I prefer to use, because it kind of automates the process of exporting as an FBX and all the rest of it. And it also means that you can keep your C4D file and the file that's being used by Unity in the same place. You don't have to, piss around with exporting every time, all that kind of thing. So what I like to do is save my scene. So we're going to save as, and we're going to save it. We're going to save a C4D file in the imports folder. So let's just call this test, save. So if we actually look in the folder now, we can see we've got a C4D file. You probably think, well, Unity is not going to know what that is, and you're largely right. So if you click on Unity and open it back up, it's detected that something's there, and it's telling us Unity needs to install the C4D Unity Converter plugin. When you have quit Cinema 4D, hit OK. Okay. So if I quit now, I'm going to quit this, hit OK, and what it's doing is it's actually downloading a plugin in the background and putting it in the C4D folder, and I'll show you where it's done that. It has, well, let me know, I've got, excuse me, let's go find it. Okay, let's use this. So if we go to this PC, go to our C drive, program files, Maxon, Cinema 4D R17, and then in the plugins folder, there should be something in there called, oh, wait a minute, let's have a look. It is not in there. Let's check that it's not in R16. It is in there, but I think that's from before, to be honest. I think what's happened here is the warning that we're getting at the bottom of Unity. So if I just close this down, oh, actually that was the window that I had my assets opening. So we'll just go back to that so we can get there easily. There we go. There's our C4D file. We get this warning at the bottom. Cinema 4D Converter plugin installation failed. Please run Unity as an administrator to have the plugin installed. So basically, it needs permission for Unity to download this file and then put it in the plugin folder of Cinema 4D. So what we need to do is, what I will do is save the scene, because obviously we got the project folder, but where I deleted stuff and all the rest of it, it hasn't saved that information. So I'm going to save scene. And it will open up this, which is the Unity projects, C4D test, and then in the assets folder. You can't actually save your scene outside of the assets folder, so it has to be in here. So I'm going to go in there and just call my scene test as well. That's fine. So I'm going to save that. And then if we go and look in our assets folder, we've got a Unity file, a .unity file called test. That's our scene, basically. So whenever you open up Unity, it'll ask what project you want. You'll click on the project and it will automatically find this file and open that up. But you can have multiple scenes in a project, and if you have, it will probably open up the last one that you were using. And if you want to open up the others, you can navigate to them and open them up from within Unity. So without further ado, let's close Unity. Press the Windows key and type Unity, and then I can right click on that and run as administrator. So that's what we want to do. So we're going to say yes, we want to run it as administrator. We want to run our test. It's detected that there's a C4D file in there probably. So let's just go into imports. Yep, there is a C4D file. It doesn't seem to be happy. Maybe it's downloading in the background. I'm going to reopen Cinema 4D and reopen this test file and resave it. So I'm going to replace that, go back to Unity. It's detected the change there. It says it needs to install the Cinema 4D Unity Converter plugin. When you have quit Cinema 4D, hit OK. So I'm going to quit out of Cinema 4D again. I'm hitting OK. Something's happening. There. Our test thing has been updated. We can drag that in. It's having a bit of mare by the looks of things. And there we are. Okay. It seems to have bugged out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is quit out of Unity. I'm not going to save it. And fire it up again. I don't think we're going to have to do it as a administrator anymore because the plugin should be downloaded now. And we can check that by going to this PC, C drive, program files, Maxon, R17, and then the plugin folder. It should have, yeah, there we go, Unity C4D to FBX converter. So it's dumped that in there for us. So happy days. Just bung this in. There we go, that's better. It's actually appeared in our list this time, and it's in. So that's the way I prefer to work. So I'm just going to reopen Cinema 4D again. I'm going to open up our test C4D. So now whenever I make changes and then flip back to Unity, they should be reflected. So let's get a sphere and make its radius 50 centimeters. That'll do. And we'll move its position up by 50 centimeters so it's sitting on the floor. Drag it out. Save over my C4D file. Go back to Unity. It's having a little think because it's been updated, and boom, my sphere's now in there. So that's exactly what we want. Now scale. This is something important to watch out for. The scale in Unity is a meter. So 1 Unity unit equals 1 meter. And we can demonstrate this by creating a cube within Unity. So instead of actually bringing geometry in from an outside source like you would do normally, you can actually create a 3D object from within Unity. So if we go up to the hierarchy tab here, go to create 3D object cube. You can't see the cube because it's probably under the floor, but if I drag this up and to the side, you can see that this cube. By the way, if you want to zoom in on an object in Unity, you put your mouse pointer over the viewport and press F, and that will frame whatever the object is that you've got selected. Now this cube, we can see that the scale here is 1 by 1 by 1, which is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. So why is our geometry that we've brought in so big? If we go back to Cinema 4D, we can see that this cube, we selected it, is actually 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters. So effectively a meter by a meter cubed. So why is it so massive? If we go back to Unity, we can see by clicking on our actual test geometry, it's got a scale factor of 1. So what it thinks is happening here is this 100 represents meters. So when it comes into Unity, it says, well, it says 100 in Cinema 4D, and that's a scale factor of 1. So that must be 100 meters. So this is actually 10 times bigger than the default Unity object. So to combat that, you can either, I suppose, change your units in Cinema 4D to meters. I'd rather not do that. I enjoy working in centimeters. It makes more sense because you can model things on quite a small scale, and you can also model things on quite a large scale. If I was building a house, I'd probably want to work in meters, but that doesn't really matter too much, because in Cinema 4D, I can go in here and type in the X. I want 1 meter, and it automatically converts it into centimeters for me. So it's really not an issue. I'd definitely prefer to work in centimeters. So in Unity, all you have to do to fix this problem is select your import, go to the scale factor, import it at 0.01, and then just go down to the bottom here and say apply, and then it imports it at the correct level. So if I select our test objects now and zoom in, they should be at the correct level, and I can tell you if they are or not by selecting the Unity cube that I made earlier and repositioning it. So go to the transform up here and go into 0, 0, 0. We'll just zero it out in world space, zoom to where its location is, and then we can see that our Cinema 4D cube 100 by 100 by 100 is exactly the same size as a Unity cube with the scale 111 in the XYZ. So that's something to remember. A lot of people say scale doesn't really matter because it's about the ratio between objects and all that kind of thing, and it's just an arbitrary number. It's almost imaginary. You're saying, oh, 1 Unity scale, it could represent anything. And in terms of geometry, that's correct, but then you have to take into consideration other things, like in Unity you can choose your shadow fall off by distance. So if you're not going to see a shadow because it's 20 meters away, you can say, yeah, you can start culling it off there. But if your scene scale is ridiculously big, like I had my C4D import a minute ago, that's going to mess with that. Also things like physics, you can do physics within Unity. So if you're making joint connections, or you've got bouncing balls or anything like that, that's going to have a big effect, because the larger an object, I should imagine it's like Cinema 4D, where if you make an object that's quite large, it's going to appear to accelerate slower because it's got more momentum and more mass. So there's definitely reasons to take scale into consideration when you're using that thing. I think it's always best practice just to make sure it's right in the first place, and then you're all right then, aren't you? So okay, so that's the first tutorial about getting geometry from Cinema 4D into Unity, making sure the scale's okay. I think in the next one we'll probably look at materials and getting the UVs into Unity correctly, because I've seen a few people on message boards on the Unity answer forums saying, oh, I set my material correctly in Cinema 4D and it doesn't appear to be coming in correct. The UVs are all screwed up. So that'll be the next one I'll be doing. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember, check out the website at digitalmeet.uk, Facebook page, that's under Unity3D, same with Twitter, Unity3D, and the YouTube channel also. Okay, cheers guys, bye.